Alright, my name is Jackblade and welcome back to my YouTube channel where we're playing some Satisfactory, and today we're doing a tips and tricks video, and this tips and tricks video is actually going to deal with not so much Satisfactory stuff as it's going to deal with color theory. And I have set up this fancy little wall here to use as a showcase thing for what we're doing. And first of all, like, color theory is not just a term used to describe like what you think about color personally. Color theory is an actual like field of science, and like how it affects our brains and how it affects our minds. And there's even like a part of it that is part of physics studies, and we all, because of that, in true Satisfactory fashion, we have a combination of art and science, and we're going to use it today to make our factories a lot more interesting. Let's start with the in-game mechanics of colors in Satisfactory. If you press X as a shortcut, or open any of your menus that opens the build menu or whatever, you can click on Customizer, or X to go straight to it as a shortcut. You have a number of different colors already like set up here for you. And like you have patterns, but you can't, as far as I know, change colors on them. Might be something that I don't know about. It might have to do with some of the swatches up here in the default. We'll see. But we will start with explaining how these works. So anytime you build a factory piece, like a piece of wall or a piece of like a constructor or whatever, it will automatically use this swatch. And if you change this swatch, if you look at these, you can see that they have a certain color. If I go into the customizer and I change this swatch, let's make you bright red, like this, and I select color, it will change the color of everything in the world that is placed with that specific swatch. Okay? Which means that without having to go and recolor everything, if you use the custom swatch, it will you will have to go and repaint everything. If you use a custom swatch to create a color and then go around and paint everything, you have to go around and paint everything again if you want to change the colors. So an easy way of just changing up your color scheme in the world, like you can see everything's changed in this tips and tricks like testing world, where I show you guys all the stuff. So as you can see, that's what happens there. And then you have different things. So foundations, if I just go, let's go bright white, like this. And I'm just gonna do that for both colors here. Boom, I'm gonna select color. Now, this doesn't change a lot for the normal ones, but if I place out, or for the special ones, or the ones you unlock, if I just place out one of these normal Ficsit foundations, you can see that the color has changed, because they are the color based here for the foundations. So that's something to keep in mind as well, that the foundation swatch like only affects this. As far as I know, these are on a separate swatch, so going to have to, yeah, the concrete structure edit. So if I do the same thing here and go to the straight, we're going to the straight white here. We're gonna go white, and all of that stuff. Then it's an FFF, like the hex code here is FFF, and then I check concrete structures. They actually haven't changed. So it doesn't really work all the time. That's something that we know, that the color picker and everything is a little bit buggy. But yeah, we can also then change pipelines. Like if I change this, let's go for a bright blue. There we go. Let's go for black over here. Select. Then our pipes placed in the world. Boom, they changed color. They've changed now, this has changed to that is, so if you want to match these up, you're gonna have to paint them manually. But yeah, this is an easy way to change up your colors, but it's not the end-all be-all of how the color mechanics works, because you also have these regular swatches. these are like stuff that you can put out into the world. So if I take the swatch number 4 here and I paint this, this is now painted with swatch number 4 and it's tied to that. So if I change swatch number 4, let's go full black just for ease. Boom, it's switched color as well. So that's an easy way of creating like an easily editable selection of colors. So that's how the color, like the customizer specifically works. But that is not color theory. That is what we're getting into next. There is an additional factor to this color picker as well, though, because if we open this and we go in and say, we want to edit this, most people just think about the sliders and they just think about the hex code, right, when they want to copy a color. What they don't realize is that you can, in reality, fix your saturation so that if you take something like this piece, I'm gonna just take you over here. I'm gonna actually, I'm just gonna put it here in the corner so it's easy to see. And I completely misclicked that. There we go, default. I've placed it down this time. Okay, I'm gonna have a control piece there. So if I just take the Ficsit, I'm gonna make a white color here, right? This is just super white, very easy. And then I'm gonna select that color, I'm gonna pick it, and if I paint this, customization already applied, but it doesn't turn white. Why is that? What's happening here? Something's off, right? So that one's painted now. Now I'm gonna take a different white, the one that I've made. How did this happen? What's different here? How are these different? Because according to the game, both of these are white. Both of these have had the white swatch applied to them. So how are these different? It's very simple. I have changed these values. Okay? So these values are a lot higher than they can be. And that is the best way that I can put it. So in a normal white, like if I put it here, this is what the values look like. But because I've taken this slider, put it to 1, and I can actually go in and type here. I go, I'm gonna know this is gonna be 30. I want 30 here. And I want like a -5 here. I want a -5 on this side. Boom. And I'm gonna select that. Then I can paint it white. Then it works. It's because the game limits you to a number, like when you slide, of from a 0 to a 1. But when you are actually playing and like putting in the numbers manually, you can go however high or low you want to. And you go to a certain point where you stop seeing like texture and stuff like that. You can see like there's very, very little texture left. It's just like clean white, like almost plasticky. So like that's something that you can like experiment with and like change numbers and stuff like that, so that it works for you. But yeah, that's a very easy trick to use. It is not my trick, however. This is something that Falcon Pheonix Gaming made a video on, which I will link in the description. And I will show you, like he can show you guys like more detailed, specifically how that like saturation and everything works. So what we want to use all of this for is to actually apply some color theory. And I know I've said that a couple of times, but this time I ain't kidding. We're going into the theory of why colors does things to our brains. So to start out with, let's go over who made the color wheel in the first place. That is actually a certain Sir Isaac Newton, yes, the Apple boy. And here's the funny thing about that. He created the first one, but there are 2 other that are also pretty common. So we have the first one that he made, which is the color wheel based on the primary colors red, yellow, and blue. Then we have the one that is mostly used by computers today, which is red, green, and blue, RGB. And then we have the third one, which is a lot less used, which is cyan, magenta, yellow. And the one that is originally made by Sir Isaac Newton, the red, yellow, and blue, are the most commonly accepted. Like, it's the one that our brain is having the most easiest time to understand. Like, on a base level, when we watch colors within that color wheel, it's a lot easier for us to take them in and understand them. So what we do with these colors and what they create together, like if you look at what's on the screen right now, it is not noticeable because it looks like natural terrain, but there are something in this called color harmonies. And harmonies are a palette or like a swatch of colors or a range of colors that work together to create certain emotions, change your mood, or add context to to an artwork or to like a visual design, to like graphics design online or whatever it is. But either way, in the game, the easiest way to like explain the context is like this is color coding. Certain factories, certain parts of factories, certain like if you're making copper, making the refineries for your pure copper, making them orange makes it easier to go like, okay, yes, this is copper, like that kind of stuff that adds context and an immediate association. So, what happens when you have bad color harmony? Bad color harmony happens when you take colors that don't mix well and force them to mix. So if I were to go, not even that, let's go for the custom swatch, and I am going to switch this back later, but for now, there, now it's in the right, there we go. And we pick magenta here for our custom. Let's just switch these out, and you can see that if I switch these, your brain is not having a good time with them. So what happened is that these are colors with bad harmonies. And that happens quite easily when we don't pick, like when we're designing something in terms of color, we don't necessarily pick the right hues. I'm going to explain what that is exactly later, but we don't pick the right hues to set our brain up to easily just go like, that is this, now I feel this. And when you don't have that interpretation, like gradient almost, happening naturally in your brain, it becomes unintuitive to process the colors you have in front of you. So like certain people will probably look at this and go like, hey, that looks very nice. And like they are in the minority because they are likely like the same way that certain people are tone deaf, certain people can be color deaf. And the same, like, I can't speak to color blindness. I don't know anything about that. I'm not colorblind myself, and I don't have any problems with colors. If someone has any cool insights on how color harmonies, if you know about it, works for colorblind people, I know that there are different kinds of colorblind, and how you guys like match up different colors to kind of create a working sense of color sometimes, and like that would be really interesting to find out how that works. I don't know, however, but yes, this is what's considered a bad harmony. It can be like this because it's chaotic and can't be processed, but it might also be if you create something that is too bland. Like if we take the red color of our base swatch and I move that more towards a low saturation, like I move it here and I go and I change them so they are like this, right? There's barely any difference. And if I were to create or change, rather, if I were to just tone down all of this saturation and tint so that we have very low saturation and everything, if you look at this, what we would notice is that it becomes, like, our brain becomes uninterested in the colors. They start looking away from the colors rather than like go like, hey, that looks interesting, and like focus on them. So yeah, that's considered a bad harmony because it is bland. So what you want to do is figure out which colors works with each other and why, which is where we're moving into the next part, which is the color wheel itself. So I am going to put up a picture on the screen right now. Okay, so you guys can see that it's a color wheel for the red, yellow, and blue. Those are the primary colors, and you can probably see, like, if you look on them, you can see that all the other colors are somewhat mixed of them. So you have red, blue, and yellow. That's the primary. And then you mix red, blue, and yellow to make secondary colors. Specifically, the secondary colors being orange, purple, and green. And then you mix them again, and you get a tertiary color scheme, which is yellow, green, red, orange, blue, purple, and so on, giving us a total of 12 main hues. We're going to get into exactly what I mean with hues in a second. But yeah, in Satisfactory, the RGB color wheel is the default, but you can still pick colors based on the red, yellow, blue color scheme. And if we go back to the color picker in game, like, you can see that if we go to the red, we have red. They are here on the edges on both sides, right? So we have red. We have the yellow. Yellow is over here, right? We got a clear yellow over here. And then if we move over, we have the blue over here. And you can see how they kind of mix together in the same way that they do on the color wheel that I put up on the screen. So we do have the red, yellow, and blue. It's just that this one focus on like red, green, or RGB. Yeah, like red, green, and blue. So this becomes one of the main colors here. So what we kind of want to do is figure out how to use this like with the mechanic in Satisfactory to make colors that are made for our brain better, like red, yellow, and blue. So, and then we just look at the yeah, we can go for what determined, like, because sorry, give me a second. Don't lose focus. Stupid ADHD brain. Okay, back in focus. When we look at what determines a actual color, because if you look at the, like, I'm going to bring up the wheel again. Let me bring up the wheel. Here, if I bring up the wheel, you can tell that there is 12 main hues, but the hues aren't necessarily, but they aren't necessarily a color, right? Because you can change variables. There are 4 variables that you can do to actually determine the final color. The color is the final choice, this final selection that you make. So the first is what we talked about, hue. Hue is just the position on the wheel, and it's the purest for each color. Red, yellow, and blue has 12 main hues. And that's like as easy as it gets. Like, just look at the wheel and you can see, like, you can count. There's 12 of them, and you can pick when you start, when you learn how to do like harmonies, because that's the important part. If you learn harmonies, you figure out how to do color, period. So saturation is the second one. Can also be called intensity or chroma, depending on like which mechanic or what you're talking about, who, like, how academic is the like context. But yeah, saturation is determines how vibrant a color is. So if we go into our color picker and we go into the swatch here, saturation is this middle one. It's like we want no color. It turns like a little bit of, like, almost like if I move this to the middle, so it's like this has no effect. This is just gray. right? And then if I turn this up to full, I get like the full saturation. It's maxed out color values, right? So that's the saturation. Very, very easy to decide. Like if you want more like plasticky looking stuff, this is what you turn up and max out. And it will like you do that. If you want more like softer pastel type colors, you move it to the left. And then you have saturate. Yeah, sorry. Then we have value, which is this slider here, and it tells you how light or dark a color is, right? So if I do the same thing here, we move this to 0.5. So now this one is like the saturation is middle value. If we move them up and down here, you can see that we get like the black is the black, like it's just that. But the second we start moving it up, it starts tinting or shading, de-shading, and moving more towards tint. So shade means adding black to a color. Tint means adding white to a color, and tone means adding gray to a color. And tone you kind of get in the middle of these. You can see, like if I have both of these in the middle, you kind of get a very grayscale tone. And if I move up, you get a lighter tone. If I move down, you get a darker tone. So yeah, that's basically what you get with the values. And then, and this is the final one, and I'm going to bring up the wheel again because that's how I will be able to explain this in a visual way. So here's the wheel, and then we have temperature. And an easy thing to do here is like, is the color warm or is it cold? And the easy thing here to do is just split the wheel down the middle, top to bottom, and on the right side, you have cold. On the left side, you have warm colors, okay? Or hues. And each individual hue can also be colder or warmer depending on the amount of red or blue in the color. So if you put more red, you're gonna get a warmer color. If you put more blue, you're gonna get a colder color. So that's something to keep in mind and plan for when you're making this. Like, do you want a warm or cold color scheme? Don't take like the furthest to the right, the warmest or the coldest color you can find, and then to the left, the coldest color you can find, if you're not trying to add a lot of contrast. And we're gonna get into that with the formulas for different palettes or harmonies in a bit. So yeah, those are the four variables or that determines the end product. Like you need to determine like which hue, how much saturation, what value, and do you want a cold or a warm like color. So that's basically what you have to determine there. And then, and we're going to move over to like the different actual, like we're going to move back to the actual color harmonies. So I'm just going to reset a little bit here so that we can work within the game's mechanics to test out different like palettes in a second. Okay, we are back. We reset. Colors are the way they are in the base game. No problems there. So we have 12 main hues. We have 4 variables for each that we can change up and down, which means that we have a practical application like range of like infinity. And how do we combine them so they work well? Well, that's where the whole concept of color harmonies come in. And we're gonna start. There's 5 main harmonies, and then I'm gonna pick up like one specific like sub harmony for one of them that I think is good to know, so you can get a little bit of variety. And here is an easy way of doing this. So you go through your 4 variables after and change them. So let's start with here. We're going for the we're going to change the top 4 here, or like some of them at least, and make our own harmony. And we're going to start with a monochromatic harmony. Monochromatic, that's how I say it. And if you remember, we can pick the hue, which is the position on the color wheel. That's the top line here. So what do I want to do there? Let's go for we're going to go for a cold color. So, and I happen to know the value here, so I'm going to go for, it's 240. That's a pure blue. And I'm gonna go for a clean, boom, super neutral 0.5 for the saturation, which is the middle one. I'm gonna go for 0.5 in the value. So what you have is 0.5 saturation, 0.5 value, and 240 for the pure blue. Like that, this doesn't look like a pure blue, right? But it is. It's just that the other variables have changed. And because it's blue, it's automatically for the last variable for temperature, it's automatically a cold color. So this is our main color. And you can see that everything's now changed to that. But that's boring. It's just like if we kept everything orange, like it's not going to like actually create anything. So what we want to do is, and this is the second one, where we have taken, it's still the blue, like we haven't changed the top one. This is what makes it monochromatic. It uses one hue with a different range of the other variables within that hue to create the palette. So I've changed this, so this is supposed to be 0.8, and this is supposed to be 0.4. There we go. And then I am just going to take and copy that over. And so that way, if I now select the color here, you can see you have that these both have the same. These are equally blue. Like they are primary blue, primary color blue, and I have just changed the variables within that to affect the whole, like what it presents like. And then I can basically just pick here, and I can switch this up however I want to, right? So now I have an accent that is also the same blue, but with different variables. And in doing so, I have created what's called a monochromatic harmony. And then we're going to move to the other side of that. I'm just gonna, so I don't forget. There we go. Then to move to the other side of that, we're going to create a complementary harmony. A complementary harmony, if I'm just going to, like, these are painted now, so I'm not going to switch that up. I'm just going to edit my colors, right? So if I go for that, a complementary harmony takes hues from the opposite sides of the wheel. So if I bring up the wheel again, and if you look at it, you can see that if I take, for example, in the middle between the yellow and red, I have an orange, and then I have the pure blue on the other side, right? And this time I'm going to use the, like, a more saturated version of it. So if we go back in here and then I take and I leave the bottom value, that's going to be the same, but I up the value, and let's go for a let's go 0.9 there, and I'm just gonna have that now as my primary color. Yeah, and then I'm gonna change the other one, and we're going like middle between yellow being here, and red, which puts us around here. I think it's actually, I think it's a 30. So if I go 30 here, and if I then, I'm just gonna tie this up so I can find like burning orange. There we go. So it's a 20 for burning orange. There, and if I just saving that so I don't lose it, but if I go in here, that's not what I was supposed to do. I misclick and I look at it as a 0.9 and a 0.5. So I'm gonna go in and edit here, and I'll put that at a 0.9 and a 0.5. Now they are on the exact opposite spectrum of the color wheel, right? There. These are what's called complementary harmonies, or this is a complementary harmony. So as you can see, these kind of like, they are very high contrast, very like different from each other, but they kind of complement each other. So in this, because like that can get very tedious, like your eyes can get very tired because there's very little variation in that. So in this, you can also then create a split complementary, which is a subtype of the complementary, where you can then look on the color wheel, and remember we had the orange and the blue, and I'm gonna keep the blue because that's the main color, right? But I'm gonna switch out the orange. So I'm now going to, so we are here, I'm going to go to a 30 for this, or actually let's go for a 25, I think is enough. Okay, so we take that, copy over the hex code, and we select, boom, and then I'm going to go to this, ta-da, let's actually copy you over so we get the saturations and stuff with us. And I'm gonna put this in here and in here, and instead of picking, like we're still in the center here, we're at 25, so I'm gonna change this to 15, which is the other side of that same orange that we picked in the beginning. So instead of picking the directly opposite color, I'm picking the two adjacent on either side. So I have a third color now, here, right? Exactly, now these change color, wow. Okay, yeah, but that's perfect because that's kind of what I wanted to do anyway. So as you can see now, I've changed, so there's 3 colors in front of us, and they kind of affect how we see the colors and how they harmonize with each other. So there's a big difference in just using the complementary and then adding in the split complementary. And that's a really, really good way for you to like, here's 3 colors I can work with in my complementary harmony. And personally, I like high contrast stuff, so like I like working within this specific one. And yeah, so then what am I going to do next? The next we're looking at is a triadic harmony. It uses 3 hues equally spaced around the wheel in a triangle shape. So how do we do that? Okay, so if we look at the triangle, we're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna stay with the super basic colors. So what we have is a let me just bring up the color wheel again so we can look at it together. And that color wheel, and I'm gonna pick the red, I'm gonna pick the blue, I'm gonna pick the yellow. I'm gonna pick the like primary colors for this. Okay, so the primary color being primary being color, we have the blue already. That's in. And then I just want to grab, oh, we can use the same saturation and everything. But then I want to go here and let's go straight all the way to red. Actually, let's go this direction, all the way to red. So now we have the red hue in, boom, and it changes colors. And then what I want is I want to have the yellow, and I want to have the like pure clear middle yellow, and I think that a 60, if I can remember correctly. Might be wrong with that. I might need to look that up. But we're gonna go with a 60, assuming that I can literally just go. Let's go here. Yeah, that's a yellow if I've ever seen one. And that was a 0.9, and that was a 0.5. So let's just copy that over. And boom. Then we have a triadic harmony. So none of these go against your brain's functions. In fact, they kind of like vibe with a lot of people. And that's because they are, like the name suggests, harmonies. And this was tested, has been tested, keeps being tested over and over again, and we find new ways of dealing with that and like finding new ways of like introducing different harmonies. But what we have as a very simple like range is just these. Like if we just use the red, yellow, blue system and we look at the colors and how they affect us, we can have pretty much fun and make really interesting choices there. And then we want to look at the next one, which is a tetradic color harmony. It uses 4 hues specifically, but it does it in a rectangle shape. So let's say that you pick we pick the blue and the orange, just like before, right? So we had the blue, the orange, but I also then pick the pure red, and I want the middle ground green, right? So we're adding a 4th color, and we're going here. We're looking at like, okay, really, really, really green there. And I think that's supposed to be a 120. I misspelled that. I'd misspelled numbers. That's really impressive of me. We're gonna keep going with a 0.9, and we're gonna keep going with 0.5 to make things easy. Boom, copy that over, select. And we will then also switch. So we have the blue, we have the red, and we need the orange. So let's switch out this to orange. So we are back there again, and remember that was a 20. So if we take that and copy over, boom. Now what we have is 3 pipeline swatches, or 3 swatches. The primary one that like hits all the factories and everything, and then we have the secondary like that adds accents, and then we have the softer like concrete stuff. That's this. I'm just actually going to show over here with this. Let's see if I can actually get a good. I'm gonna change some of these out actually, so we get some of it. Boom. And then I am going to take. This is a very green. I'm gonna change these to match that. Okay. And by doing this, boom, I have now changed. There should be one of these there. I have now changed up so that I have the tetradic color harmony, where I'm using 4, and I've picked them as a rectangle on the circle. In this case, the blue, the orange, the red, and the like green, the middle between the blue and yellow. So that way, if you draw lines between them, you can see that it like forms a rectangle. And that's basically really like then I have a 4 color like swatch and everything, but it is like really what you want to do with this is kind of like be a little bit careful. I'm gonna go through these again, like when are the best time to use them. But I'm first gonna go through the last harmony, which is analogous harmonies, where you use 2 to 4 hues that are directly next to each other on the wheel. So if you look on the wheel, and let's say that you starting from the blue, you pick the dark, like more blue purple, and then you pick the clear purple, and then you move towards and you take more of the cyan blue. So you have those 4. So if we were to change up our color schemes again, right, and I would then change, so that's the blue, and then let's go to the more purple blue and keep everything else the same. So let's go here and switch that out. So I color, so that's the more purple blue. Then we're going to move to a brighter purple blue here. Perfect. And then in the last one, we're moving to the other direction of the blue. So we're moving more towards this direction. Let's go for 220 evenly there. And this here is called an analogous an analogous harmony, where if we now look at how our colors here look, you can see that they are very similar to each other, but there is a large variety and they kind of just blend into each other, right? So let's go back and quickly go through each of these and when are they like good use cases, so to speak. And I would say, let's go for monochromatic harmony. Is great for simple color schemes. It looks very organized and does not require a lot of work to figure out. You just pick different like values and saturations and just have a range. And you can have quite a few there. And then in the complementary harmony, like it's great for strong contrasts, great for color coding, and to make factories like really stand out. And the split complementary harmony just adds a layer of complexity to the color scheme that doesn't make your eyes bored after a while. And then you have the triadic harmony that takes three hues that are placed in like equally spaced around the wheel, so it makes a triangle shape. It's very bold, very vibrant most of the time. You tend to have like very large divides between the different colors, right? So it tends to be when you're working a lot with nature around you and you're incorporating like cliffs and leaves and stuff like that into your build. Most of the time, you then look at the color in the nature, and that's one of the colors of your swatch. So you then pick a couple of other, like two others that kind of like you feel is then shapes that triangle when you're making your palette. The tetradic color harmonies with four hues in a rectangle shape is great for you want a single main color that is on like the majority of everything, and then you only have the other colors for contrasting accents or detailing. It's great. It's really, really great for using like with the painted beams, in my opinion, because the painted beams, just like the walls, respond really well to colors without you having to use the trick to like make these really, really saturated or anything like that. Like they work really, really well, the painted beams. So very much recommend testing that one out for that. And the best thing you can do for the uh, analogous harmony is the simplest, like this is the simplest and safest way to design a palette, and it's guaranteed to work for your eyes. So what if you want to just try it out and you feel like, okay, but I'm a beginner with color theory, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm afraid of like ruining my world or whatever, that is okay. Start with the analogous harmony because it is a super safe way that pretty much always works. So that's definitely a great way. And to make it easy for yourself, start with either red, yellow, or blue, and work your way from there, from in either direction. Instead of doing what I did, where I on the wheel like went both right and left of blue. Like just pick one of the direction and create four colors from that. So then what we're gonna end this off. We're gonna end this off with like how do you actually then make the palette in game and everything. So when you make a palette, pick one dominant color, one that be used the most and cover the most surface area, just like the blue is doing here. And you then use one of the harmonies to pick out the other colors to use in the palette, so that you have, like, I recommend that even if you're not necessarily using all of them in a single build, that a single palette has four total colors. I think that if you have lower than that, you lack variety. If you have higher than that, it's gonna look messy. So what you then want to do is starting out, like when you start your new save or whatever, you should, in my opinion, start with just editing these 4 because they are automatically used when you place everything down. You don't have to go and paint everything, it's just there. So like everything's changed color here now based on my analogous harmony that I used for the last scheme there, right? So all of this has changed color and now fits with that. And it's not like, while it's not my favorite colors or anything, they don't look like offensive to the eye. So yeah. And then like when you have your defaults main palette using the default swatches, that's when you move into your regular swatches. Ignore the custom. It's only going to bite you in the butt trying to use it. Okay. So, I messed around with this one. I'm just gonna change it into this so that it's not in the way. And then what you want is to have 3 dedicated swatches, one for black, one for white, and one for gray. The way that I've set these up is that they have that trick that they are super saturated. So if I paint something, okay, didn't that work with this one? It did not. Okay, either way, like having a dedicated black, a dedicated white, and a dedicated gray is super good to have because these are not part of the color wheel. These are part of every single palette you make. So you have an automatic extra 3. So when you pick 4, you also have black, white, and gray, meaning that you have 7 colors in your palette automatically, all the time. That leaves 12 different things that you can change here, meaning that you can have somewhere between, like with this, you can have between, like there's 1 there, and then you can have another 3 here, so that's 4, and up to 8 if you just use 2 colors in your, so it's 1, 2 palettes there, and then you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can have up to 8, between 4 and 8 dedicated palettes in your world. Literally just spend 20 minutes at the beginning when you start your new world up and decide like, hey, this is the colors that I want. And you don't use the custom one, you only use the default and the regular, because if you don't like a palette, you can change that palette later without having to go around your world and repainting everything from scratch. Okay? So that is everything that not everything, but it is a good start, in my opinion, for people to experiment with their color theories, and specifically the red, yellow, and blue spectrum. And if you enjoy colors and like making your stuff look pretty and everything, I highly recommend go check out the video I made on vertical circles. And then when you figure out if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts or ideas or whatever, put them in the comments. If you really like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, make sure to hop on over to our Discord and let's have a conversation about color theory and Satisfactory. And everyone's super hyped for 1.0. I am too. One of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is because I am currently planning for my 1.0 playthrough, and I am currently looking at specifically what color palettes do I want to use for my save. And basically, that means that I will use those colors throughout the save, and I would plan a bunch of stuff for the factories as well, but we're getting rebalanced recipes and everything, so we don't know what the quantities are we will be using. We don't know how they are fixing the miners overclocking problem with belts only taking 780, but miners having 1200 output when you overclock them to 250%. We don't know how all of this is going to be solved, so I really can't plan the factories, but I can, like the actual like mechanics, the logistics, the quantities, and all that. But what I can plan is the visual style. And if you want to get hype and really plan for 1.0, my tip is do this. Plan for this stuff instead. What do I want my factories to look like? Which parts do I want to use? To detail, which, like, try that stuff out. And that's why I made this video. Also, there was a couple of people in the Discord that thought it sounded really interesting with color theory. So I decided to make this video, and I hope you really like it. So, I say so a lot today. Okay, I'm gonna end it here. I'm not gonna take up more of your time, unless you want to watch more of my videos, in which case I will see you in those videos, and otherwise I will see you in the next episode of the Beginner series. And this week I'm actually starting to release 2 Beginner series episodes every week. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. So again, I will see you in the next one. Bye!